All right, fellas. Welcome back. We're going to do more of like a podcast style. We got Mason Ronan here, also a founder of Magna. There's going to be, our combined knowledge, 20 years of playing at different high levels baked into this pod. A little bit of the Magna origin story, a little bit of life lessons, things that we realize now looking back on our careers. A lot of you guys watching are probably dealing with similar issues, and you can kind of take advice from our situations now that we can look back and kind of see how we could have played things differently and potentially outcomes could have been different. But yeah, we'll kind of start it off with the origin story of Mason training people and how that became Magna. And then also I would say just give like a super brief rundown. I think most people watching probably already know you, but for those that are new, give a rundown.
What's up, boys? Mason Ronan, me and Chase founded Magna together. Prior to that, I spent a little bit in the Phillies org, did about like 5 games of indie ball in 2025, and then hung it up after that. Prior to pro ball, I was at junior college, signed out of junior college. Before that, I was actually at Pitt, so I did it a little backwards. COVID helped me out there. So coming out of high school, I was drafted by the high school out of Red Sox, decided to go to Pitt. Sophomore year was COVID. That banged that season. We got that year back, and I was able to take advantage and transfer out like I originally wanted to after my freshman year. That's kind of the Spark Notes version. We could talk about my journey for like a whole hour, but that's not what we're...
Well, yeah, in general, Magna started, Mason was training guys on his own at first when we were training together in the off seasons. I had always been posting on TikTok. I hadn't done a ton of it. And then basically we kind of wanted to work together because we enjoy working together on projects, even though we hadn't done it up to that time. But the idea is just like filling in the gaps in traditional remote training that we experienced when we trained with all the people that we trained with, which is pretty much everyone that you've heard of and some that you may not have heard of, honestly. And so a lot of different experiences, a lot of stuff that we liked, a lot of stuff that we wish we could have changed at the time. And that's kind of what goes into a lot of the decisions that we do now, is just those lessons learned from who we trained with and the gaps that we saw, essentially. What are your thoughts on like the main gaps that we kind of saw in what we're doing now?
Honestly, like for me, and at least how like I like to view it with the guys that we work with, and even like if they get on a call with us and want to inquire more about what is Magna, what do we do at Magna, like I honestly hate the term remote training because that's really not what we do, right? We're more of like a mentorship, advising, we have a really good relationship with our guys, and that's like the backbone of everything. And the training and the pitch design and all the other stuff is layered on top of that. But at the base of it is a sound relationship with the guys that we work with. Because honestly, I think that is the core of it all, right? If you as an athlete are bought into me as, the guy in your corner, I think you're going to get a lot more out of everything if you're bought into me and I'm bought into you. But yeah, it's just because it's more getting to the next level and playing at a high level is more than just training, right? At this point, like it's just the bare minimum now. Maybe like 6 to 7, maybe 8 years ago, you could start training and probably gain an edge on your competition. But like, bro, everybody's training now. You got Tread, you got Driveline, you got all these other remote programs. Basically, everybody's training that wants to get to the next level. So at this point, it's the bare minimum. So what we do at Magna is like, how can we find those other little niche avenues to explore for you and separate from your peers and get you to that next level and actually have success, right? Not just get to the next level. We want you to get to the next level and dominate. And, we definitely, between the two of us, have learned a ton, just looking back on our careers now that we're both done playing, like, yeah, just hindsight's always 20/20 now. So it's like, we basically get to restart our careers with all the knowledge we know now and except we're not going through it, we're guiding you through it and your family through it. So
yeah, that kind of leads into one of the first things that we wanted to talk about. It's funny, we'll get on these rolls and we like don't have the camera going, so it's nice that hopefully we can kind of hit that flow state as we go here, and give some of this knowledge to you guys, because every time we have these conversations we're like, we should have filmed that.
Any phone call,
literally,
when we're driving.
Yeah, when we're driving especially. But the idea of like these pivotal moments throughout your career, you don't realize how important they are at the time. That's just the nature of it. And the one in particular is the self-awareness and the idea of like when to be stubborn with your career, when to seek out advice, how to determine who you're seeking out advice from. And so this specific one is only going to apply to some of you guys watching, but it's almost always going to feel like in your career that you have to get substantially better to be where you want to be. That's what you've done your whole life. You're always chasing that dragon. We both had parts in our careers where if we would have just hunkered down and had someone tell us, hey, it's time to actually start like harvesting outs and owning what you do and exploring the best ways to do that, as opposed to chasing like the velo dragon or whatever else to just get that extra 1%. It's like, dude, you're already there. Now, again, this isn't going to apply to everyone, but like we were talking to a JUCO guy who's like low to mid 90s. He's going into his second year in JUCO, and it's that same thing. He's like obsessed with throwing harder. And it's like, dude, if you just shove and you figure out ways to have a slight edge with what you already do, you're going to go to a good school and you're probably going to have a chance to play pro ball. That's all you can ask for. But we both had points in our careers where we kind of derailed the momentum we had built up because we were chasing, in our case, it was both velo. That's probably the most common. And I'll let you kind of explain yours and I'll interject accordingly, I guess, for that specific issue. Yeah,
just like building off of that. So sophomore year, I transferred down to junior college. I was basically going all in, like down there to, for the draft really. And got down there and all fall, I was like 92 to 96, right? Like as a left-handed pitcher with a really good breaking ball and a pretty good splitter. Meanwhile, like I was so focused on looking ahead, right? Grinding, wanting to get better, right? Like having that growth mindset, 1% better every day, all the buzzwords you can think of. And I didn't even realize where I was. I was already a left-handed pitcher that was 92 to 96 with 2 big league offerings. Why couldn't I have just realized that and, like Chase said, hunker down and just be that, right? And own it and practice harvesting those outs, getting better at pitching versus like all my training economy and my bandwidth going into chasing this velo dragon of, I'm not good enough yet. I got to get better and better and better, right?
Yeah. That doesn't mean also, that doesn't mean, oh, we're just done. You just mail it in. There's a whole nother world out there of actually becoming really good at baseball, right? And if you spend your whole career going through these rabbit holes of weird, odd exercises to try to maybe get you from 94 to 97, it's like, dude, in the meantime, you're missing out on like all the plethora of other knowledge that you can pick up on how to actually get guys out, how to read swings, how to deploy your arsenal. Is your arsenal where you want it to be? Like once you throw over, like in college, once you throw over 90, if you want to play really good baseball, the sauce is going to be developing your off-speed pitches and knowing how to deploy it, right? You can, if you don't have solid off-speed offerings in today's game, you better be throwing like at least 100. And so by that logic, if we're not throwing 100 and the bandwidth that it will take to get to 100 might derail us, we probably won't get there, a lot of other things depending on who you are, but you could be really, really good throwing mid-90s, developing other offerings. It's kind of just applying leverage to where it's most needed. And in his case, he's not 92 to 96, but in his head, it's like, oh, I could be 97. I could be 95 to 98 if I did these 3 drills, right? Like it's what you see on Instagram. Instead of like talking with Mason, like I feel like the first time you truly started to try to like take more pride in that part of your game was like your last year.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's almost too late at that point.
It was just
whereas you could have stacked all of that from the time you were 19 or 20.
20, building that, like, right, like being that, just owning being that 92 to 96 left-handed pitcher and just like hunkering down there and just doing it. You know?
You might be watching like, well, I'm not 92 to 96, I'm not left-handed. Sure, but it's kind of different for each person's scenario. I see a lot of you guys kind of, you chase something as like maybe you're 88 to 92 as a righty and you're like a freshman or sophomore in college and you're so hell-bent on all this, like just throwing everything out the window to do whatever it is. And then as a result, you don't throw any innings, you're hurt, it's just like a terrible college career. And you can almost buy yourself more time by like learning how to at least give enough training economy to like investing in these other things that will help you harvest outs, which is kind of what we do at Magna as well. It's like, that's kind of, we're forward thinking in a lot of things we do, but we also blend some of that old school, like some of the pitching coach that you think is an idiot, he does have some good points. Like he probably was a better pitcher than you. Yeah. Like if the game was on the line, they'd probably want him out there instead of you, right? But you're so smart because you know about constraint drills and all of this. So it's like, there's 2 sides to it, and to throw one out in favor of just like mindless, like everything has to be database, analytic based is, there's a romantic feminine part to the game that is missing in a lot of people's training right now. And as a result, you have these rigid, stiff, stuck athletes that don't actually play the game. It's a very graceful game. You could, we were working with guys yesterday talking about why we think journaling's kind of a buzzword now, but like, it's not even the point of the story. The point was like, go ahead.
Yeah. So like looking back on my career, right, I was like, I'm not going to journal. What am I, like a girl? You know what I mean? Like just that macho, super masculine, like why would I write my thoughts and feelings down? But like looking back on it, it's like if you're working on X, Y, and Z and like you have a really good session, why are you not going to write down like what it meant to you? You know, maybe something that you were thinking internally that helped you do that consistently, right? It's a way for us to get our thoughts into reality and then be able to take those and use them to get consistent results.
Yeah. It's not even necessarily about the journaling either. It's about the idea of you were thinking that other people were going to perceive you a certain way if you did something that's deemed as not super masculine. I'm grinding David Goggins. I always have to get better and better. That's a very masculine state of mind. A feminine state of mind is a little bit more of that contentment, a little bit more of that dance element. Look at Yamamoto's windup. How, like, is that feminine or is that masculine, right? Like, it's a literal dance. Yeah. He's has very good cadence and rhythm. It's very gentle at points of it. It's extremely gentle. The best athletes I know have the ability to find that gentleness within their throw, which is kind of like when we talk about tempo, like the ability to relax and contract effectively. This isn't a jump, this isn't a throw, basically any power movement. And then you see guys who are not gentle, and it's no coincidence that these are the same guys that probably think journaling is fruity, right? And all these other things. They don't want to go to their school prom dance. Those guys, they can never relax. They could be 10 times stronger than someone and not be able to go perform the thing because of not wanting to be perceived a certain way. That was a bit of a tangent, but I'll tell my part of the kind of the same idea of I first hit 95 after my freshman year, the summer between my freshman year and my sophomore year in college at Driveline, which was kind of crazy because I'd only really thrown mid 80s at school, and I hit it a couple times at Driveline. I was like low 90s most of the time. And I went back to school and we had a new pitching coach. We butted heads. I was kind of spiraling like about, I can't do this. Like, dude, you can always be resourceful and figure stuff out. But beside the point was, at that point, I didn't realize like the lightning in a bottle that I had. I should have really worked hard to just stayed low 90s instead of try to like eke out an extra couple miles an hour. And the same thing happened also when I got drafted from Oregon State. I was like 90, 94 most of the year, touch 5. This is a couple years later. And I'm with the Cubs and they're telling me how I have to like hit 95 and all this. And I'm like, sure, like if it worked out like that, if I was able to have ways to try that without really like derailing myself, that makes sense. But basically I ended up kind of lengthening my arm action, changing some things, and I was really never able to like consistently be 90, 95 again. Yeah. And I was easily doing that at Oregon State. And that also coincided with me like trying like reinventing the wheel with some of my training. Like at the end of the day, the stimulus needs to be enough to elicit the adaptation and keep doing that. Yeah. That's all it is. It's not like a million different reps. It's not things that look ridiculous to get clicks. I think a lot of that is people online realize that they don't know how to articulate their thoughts in a way that can quite differentiate enough. So they just post nonsense because they know it's kind of catchy to people's eyes, and they're like, oh, this is different. That's a tale as old as time, like differentiating yourself from others. It doesn't mean it's actually working. Yeah. Right? Do you have anything to add on that?
No, I think like just kind of circling everything back together, just being able to have those guys or that team in your corner that can be that grounding force for you. Like, hey, like, bro, you are that 92 to 94 right now. Like, let's maybe focus on that. Or like having that team for, to be able to help you sift through all the BS that's out there and keep you on the trajectory that you're on, instead of like you seeing something new on social media or like some idea pops into your head and you just run with it and go. And it's like, you were on this trajectory and then next thing you know, you just did that and you just boom, set yourself on a different path, right? And you won't ever know that when you're like in the foxhole and when you're going through it, right? And that's why I said earlier, like hindsight's 20/20, and basically we're restarting our careers with all the knowledge we have now, right? Like think about how valuable that is. Imagine you got to restart life with everything that you know now up until this point. Like how drastic would your life change, right? So it's like that principle, but except we're applying it to your baseball career and helping you manage, everything, right? Not just training and lifting, right? Like how I said earlier, I hate the idea of remote training, right? It's a relationship, it's consulting, it's advising, it's mentorship, right? It's all of that. And it's not just this spreadsheet program, you know, that here you go, man, go do your thing and figure it out, right? Like you will get that, but also you're going to get the other aspect of like how to navigate everything. Because like looking back on my career, it's like I had the other half of that equation, right? Like putting the work in, you know, grinding, right? Being bought into, you know, my training, my diet, my lifestyle, all that stuff, right?
But it's like, what to ignore.
Yeah, exactly. Knowing what to ignore is
that's like so hard.
Super, and you'll never know. And it's really tough when you're in that position, trying to stack like all the odds in your favor to get to that 0.01% of, you know, the population.
But yeah, and that's like you're gonna feel that urge of like, oh, I have to keep chasing this. That's the whole thing that we help our guys sift through. And if you are a righty in college and you're a freshman, you throw mid 80s and you want to play pro ball, yeah, like we got to push velo, right? It's different for everyone's scenario. A lot of the guys we work with are a little bit higher level, so they may be in these situations where they're kind of this archetype that we just talked about, though, which is why we wanted to touch on that. Because I really haven't seen anyone say that.
Yeah.
Like no, everyone's like, look at average fastball velocity. It's getting higher and higher. They're like doomers of baseball, and then it's like for left-handed pitchers, we're both lefties. Obviously, most of our clients are lefties because that's just how it works.
Yeah, it's funny.
But like the reality is, like if you're 90 to 94 and you have one unique trait and you are a zone bully, you have a really good shot.
Yeah.
Like you just have a really good shot. You don't have to be 96.
Yeah, I mean, right? Like you do have to throw hard to get the pro ball, but like nobody wants to. It's not sexy to say like go pound the zone and post, right? Like what's gonna keep you in the game longer, right? Like let's look at me and Chase's career, for example. Like
that's a good metaphor.
You know, like like just look at his numbers. We can pull it up and we can just put the numbers side by side, and that'll speak for itself, right? Like, you know, I had not saying that you didn't have the stuff or anything, but like it was like, right, I checked all the boxes in terms of like, you know, mid-90s fastball and, you know, elite off-speed offerings. Yeah. But right, like I was never focused on like how to actually utilize those to get guys out effectively. But like on the flip side, it's like, you know, I feel like you did a really good job, and you've posted about it, right? Like especially like the poker parallel of like the GTO like frame and lens to like how can we actually view our job as pitchers and put ourselves in favor, you know, just put us in good positions to get the job done, no matter what stuff we have that day.
Yeah. And you need to be a good self-evaluator because there's multiple roads. Like there was parts of me like my second year in pro ball, mind you, I'm throwing high 80s my entire pro career. So I kind of did have insane numbers for a time for what I was predicted to have in a very forward-thinking org too. So I had a lot of stuff essentially telling me I should have sucked, really. And just like saying, no, I'm just going to go be a zone bully and collect outs. But I could have like kind of like, okay, I'm going to try some crazy stuff, like, and I might get released this year, like 3 years ago or something. That's another avenue, right? Like that's just knowing the avenues that you have. I was kind of like, there was a period in time where I was just enjoying pitching really well, and I was like, I'm going to lean into this. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it didn't work out for me to pitch in the big leagues ultimately. But I mean, I had a successful career and I learned a lot of lessons, and I felt like anyone that was my teammate like could look back and be like, yeah, he competed. Like he wasn't like a lab rat that was constantly like worried about the wrong things. Just like a foxhole guy, you know? Yeah. And so depending on where you're at in your career, it's like, and how you want to approach it. Because I'm not saying I'm necessarily right. I'm just saying this is my frame of mind and how I went about it. But there's just like a balancing act when you get to those high levels of what you want to go after and how you want to approach your career, I guess. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're kind of talking about this stuff, because a lot of the baseball social media is just like so redundant, and it's like it lacks depth and scope, and it also lacks deep insight. That's one thing. Obviously, if a guy didn't play at a high level, it doesn't mean he can't be a good coach. But what it really means is he is just going to have missed out on so many like interpersonal experiences, relationship situations. So he's not going to have that frame of context. And if you work with someone like that, when you say something, they might not even register it in their brain, right? That like, well, but we only have one off day a week and I'm feeling kind of run down. They're like, well, I got all my stuff in, and like when I was at college and we had 3 games a week, it's like, so they'll just start to ignore signs, and they can't help it because they don't have that frame of reference of what it was like to play at different high levels and experience that Latin that literally does nothing, and just throws cheese. Like, you don't, that's not at your local D2 school, right? It's not at pretty much any D1s either. That's kind of reserved for like the mid to upper levels of pro ball, which is another interesting tidbit that, because it's almost like people have like the new age is like so like dug their heels in on like, you don't need any credentials. Anyone could be a coach. Like, you could just be the local school teacher, teach him driveline certification. He could be your coach. It's like, dude, it's not like that. And people are almost tainted because there's so many like moronic guys who played at such a high level that say stupid stuff on Twitter. So then it makes it seem like, it almost makes it seem like if you played at a high level, you can't be a good coach. That's kind of what I see now with like forward-thinking people. Which is funny. Like, maybe the nerds have it how they want right now. We'll kind of transition. We'll transition into something that you dealt with for a lot of your career. I dealt with it for a bit, and I was able to kind of work through it, I felt, successfully. But the fear of being perceived and getting your swagger, your emotion coached out of you from coaches at young ages when you were kind of more vulnerable. Talk on that a little. Yeah,
like just looking back on my career, like when I was at my best, like especially like younger, like I was a very fiery, like intense competitor. And now granted, it's like as a 12, 13, 14-year-old, like when you experience like some of those intense emotions competing, like maybe they aren't expressed in the right way, but like as a coach or a parent, honestly, like that doesn't mean that needs to be like dampened out of your son or your athletes, right? It's like that is because the moment you do that, the moment they express something and you're like, hey, that is wrong, like that immediately puts inhibition all over that expression, right? And at the end of the day, like doing the thing like pitching or hitting, like playing a sport it's an expression of a skill. And so when you start to layer those inhibitions on, like you start to be like, oh, well, like I can't do this and I have to do it a different way. And then it's like next thing you know, you're like on the mound in the game, like actively trying to hold it in versus just freely letting it go. And then it's like you can see that in the way you move. You can see it in the way that you're on the mound and your body language and your confidence, right? And it's like I felt like I was scared to just let it go, right? Like whatever it was, like I was like, I can't, because like I for whatever, I had some coach in the past who was like, no, like you can't do that. That looks bad. Well, who does that even look bad to? You know what I mean? Like
him.
Other than you, like like saying that's bad just because, like and that just goes into like being able to tap into your emotions, like in understanding the type of like archetype you are as a competitor. Like, are you that fiery, uppity guy, like intense guy, or are you like that chiller on the mound?
It's owning who you are.
And like that's something like we do with our guys, is like we'll put them through a mental assessment and kind of tag them an archetype for them to tap into and hone into when they're competing, right? Because it's like you can kind of step into that when you're in the game. So it's like, again, just understanding who you are, how you operate, and knowing what levers to pull, right? How to deploy your arsenal. But like on the flip, like this is the emotional side of like your arsenal, right? Like how can we tap into these states, and what states do we perform best in, right? And how can we get there consistently?
It makes me think, like, this is another thing I feel like no one's talking about, is just, it's like self-awareness is everything in this game. Knowing when to say no, knowing when to say you need help, being patient enough to like see things through, knowing when to be like, we gotta switch the course. It's really gonna, unless you are so genetically gifted that you're just like gonna bypass all this stuff, for the 99% of you guys, you need to be a very good self-evaluator. You need to have strong self-awareness. You need to unbiasedly be able to audit your entire life and career, and who you're taking advice from and who you're putting your trust in. Because that quote is true of like who you surround yourself with. And in a lot of your guys' cases, what you're going to say is, oh, well, I'm surrounded by so-and-so. I can't do anything about it. That's your low agency. You're destined to go like work in a cubicle and have someone tell you what to do, which there needs to be a class of people that do that. But perhaps some of you, now that I've said that, have been like, I don't want to do that. Well, you better start becoming more high agency, because if you just let things happen to you and you're not resourceful, unless you have the hand of God, like you're not going to play this game for a long time. You're not going to have fun. You're going to get embarrassed. And so, self-awareness, being able to take inventory of yourself, which I'm not even sure how you get better at.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like almost just being reminded of it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, right, like having that support team in your corner that you can rely on for that, but like also even maybe you guys just seeing this now, like, oh, like I didn't even know I should be aware of that. Now you do have that awareness, and now you can start to maybe peer into that consistently, right? And touching back to journaling and writing stuff down, you can keep an inventory or like a log of this stuff, right? So you can constantly go back and see and iterate and see the trends and see where you're going, right? Because like if you just have it all up here, it's really hard to see where all that fits in the progress and the timeline and the direction of it all. So yeah.
I want to talk about this concept called runway. So like each of you has a different type of runway in your career depending on your age, your skill level, and your goals, honestly. But this can help you evaluate your situation a little bit better. So we were working with some high school kids the other day who are Magna guys, and they have a longer runway. Like literally, like I think of a plane, it has more time to build up speed. So they can take less risk now, and that will be reflected in their training. They can spend more time investing in things that will pay dividends later. Think of like long-term investments in the stock market versus like crypto. I would think of like crypto as like, we're going to do some crazy training modalities to see if we can get a volatile spike, and we're admitting that it could go terribly wrong too, but we don't have the runway to do anything else.
Well, yeah, when you get to a certain point, like you have to, like that's just what you need to do. But like if you're like a young kid and you're 14, 15, 16 watching this right now, you got to understand like you're the inverse of that. Like you have that length, right? And that's why it's going to be super important for you guys to find somebody, whether that's us or whoever, like you honestly truly resonate the most with. Find them, seek them out, work with them, get on a plan, get that laid out for you. And then it's like, keeps your job super simple. Like put the work in, trust the plan, and just it's laid out and just do it, right? Like stay out of your own way and just stack those days, because time is on your side when you have that long runway. But on the flip side, if you're an older guy, like you're a college guy and you're trying to get to that point, it's like, okay, like your runway is a lot smaller now. So how we go, right? Like again, everybody's different, but then it's like, how are we going to manipulate the things that you need to get the most out of that shorter time?
I think like this just popped in my head, but the ability to, if you're going to train with someone, like I'm sure a lot of you guys see everyone, it's like there's a lot of people, you need to be able to have someone that can not mold. You shouldn't have to mold to their program, I guess. Like if you're in high school, there's no reason why you should be doing 1,000 impulses or something like that, like some ridiculous type of modality that's like, there's no reason to. You have such a long runway to just do all the other things that like work so much more simple. And so understanding that, I guess like being with people that can evaluate your situation well enough to like work their ethos onto your situation, instead of it being like everyone comes to me and I give them what I do. It's like that's not how like that's not really how like athletics and like the body works really. So everyone's in such different areas and they have different runways, and a guy with a massive runway should not really have anything resembling a guy with a tiny one. That's where it's like you kind of get caught in the, well, we do that, we're these guys. Like we're not like, literally our rule of thumb for any exercise is the adaptation needs to be enough to elicit, or the stimulus needs to be enough to elicit an adaptation. And if it doesn't pass that, then we don't really need to do it necessarily. And that's like, sounds extremely simple, that it's almost sounds elementary, but a lot of the most basic stuff is just elementary, but it's like, it just is though.
It is simple, right? Like at the end of the day, a lot of the stuff is simple, but we make it hard. We add on, I need this.
You want to talk about what we were just saying earlier, like where we were both at our best output wise as pitchers when we were not really doing anything crazy.
Looking back at that point when I was like heading into my junior year, going to CF, transferring out of Pitt, like I wasn't doing any crazy training, right? Like I was lifting heavy, moving it fast, right? Having that progressive overload, right? To continue to keep that stimulus great enough to elicit the adaptations that we're looking for. And it was really honestly brutally simple, and my outputs were the best they had ever been. But then it's like I started to get to that point, then I was like, oh, I need more. What can I what's going to get me to that next? But like realistically, like bro, you should have just stepped there. Like you were on it. Like you just continued to needed to let time compound and that hard work compound, and right, that's a lot hindsight's 2020. So it's easy
Was
to
your
look back
lifestyle
and say
like
that.
getting dialed as that synergized? That's what I'd be kind of curious. Or were you still not exposed to that stuff yet?
I started to get into that more during that time. So I mean, that could have easily been like a needle
force
mover,
multiplier.
a force multiplier.
That's the way I think of the
right?
lifestyle stuff and the metabolism, bioenergetics, lighting, all of that niche stuff that a lot of other people.
Yeah, that's at the time I really started. I found like Grant Fowler's page, Fowler Fitness. If you guys aren't familiar with any of his stuff, like he's a great resource for a ton of that side of things as well, even training.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was at that point like I started to I bought like his nutrition guide right around that time and like started to go a lot more deeper into like how light does actually affect our biology, like circadian rhythm, the importance of our diet, right? So that paired with just like a brutally simple training regimen maybe could have just been the sauce, but like it was like I got to the point where it's like I felt like I just needed more and more and more and like needed to try this crazy stuff and do all this crazy stuff. And it's like I did, and then I got back and I was throwing slower at the beginning of the season. I ended up tearing my elbow.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, I missed the draft.
How much of that time could have been spent honing in your arsenal to actually do the thing?
Yep,
what did you say? That sentence you said.
I don't even know what I said.
Doing a bunch of obscure things, anything but actually pitching and expecting to get better at the thing. Yeah. That's kind of the state of like this esoteric training area right now.
Yeah.
It's literally just like whatever looks most obscene. Obscene might not be the right word. Just what's different, like a word for eye catching.
Just like different, bro. Like,
yeah, I wanted a better word though. And it's whatever that is, and just doing a bunch of that, and then going out there and just still having the audacity to be surprised when you go 1.1 innings with 7 walks. Like, why are you surprised?
Yeah.
Like you just spent all of your bandwidth doing nonsense. Like what made you feel like you deserved that? Like that you were entitled enough to go do that type of stuff. It's the shiny object syndrome, and we've dealt with it ourselves where it's like you see something cool and new. Maybe this one thing is the thing I can disregard like 70 years of like research on human performance on, and I'll make the exception. I'm the special boy, like I'm a special boy. I need special training.
And
it's not that like we're not like, if you work with our guys, they're not just doing 3x10 trap bar deadlift, but sometimes there's a time for that. But that isn't, it's not that or that, right? Mm-hmm. It's not 1,000 impulses or 3x10 trap bar deadlift. There's like a middle ground where you can still take elements of some of the other stuff, but you don't lose sight of the plot. Like at the end of the day, if you're a baseball player, you need to rotate really fast. You need to be good at the skill that you do, right? If that's a hitter, you need to be able to get on plane. You need to be able to pull the ball in the air. You need to be able to adjust. If you're a pitcher, you need to be able to fill up the zone, have 2 quality offerings at least, be healthy.
Being healthy, being available. That's like a superpower.
And that's
another way you can just completely differentiate like at the higher levels is like being available, right? Because that's what your manager is looking for. Can you just go out and post consistently versus, Johnny who's on the IL every other month, or, he's not hot today because his shoulder's killing him or whatever. And like a lot of that stuff can be addressed. Like those little nagging injuries, like at least in a lot of the guys that we have worked with, have been addressed through like simple lifestyle changes, diet changes, supplements, right?
It's not supposed to be super hard.
Yeah. No, it's not. Yeah, weird.
That's another spell.
Yeah.
It's like some of you guys identify with your injury so much that you think you're so broken, you need this monstrosity of a bunch of different things that would literally get you arrested if you did them in a public field. And it's like you're so special that you need that, instead of what about all the other big levers? What about the fact that you're in a literal toxic relationship?
Yeah.
Like, no, that couldn't be it. Yeah. I need to do more like double handstand cart rolls to build my like whatever, we like rolling, right? I'm not anti-rolling, but it's just like the pendulum has got a little too far, really. And I'm seeing it derail people's careers, and I'm seeing people sit there with their palms up like, I did everything I could, and you're left with just,
I worked really hard, man.
I worked really hard, and I didn't pull the big levers though. You got it. And that all comes from self-awareness. You don't know what the big levers are if you don't know. And that's why I put this stuff out. A lot of you guys have probably been introduced to metabolism, bioenergetics, lifestyle, light, mental frameworks, owning yourself. Mental performance for the longest time was literally, they just told you, breathe, do breath work, and look at the foul pole.
Yeah.
That was like the extent of like what we were given, and expected that to be sufficient. That was insane in itself. But there's just so much more to all these other corners that leave an impact. Did you have something to add there?
No, that was good.
I have a time. So like I've been going at Big Mobility, and I don't know. This guy used to sell the bendy protocol. I don't know if anyone remembers that. So I'm sure what people want to know, what is Ronan Throwin, formerly known, take on mobility?
Right, like it again, like it's a piece of the puzzle, but it's not the whole thing. Like I remember back in probably like 2018, 2019, that was like the new thing. It was like, bro, mobility, if you just start doing mobility, you're gonna throw gas and like you're just gonna get so much better. It's like, right, like is that maybe an important piece? Yeah, I mean probably, like you should probably be mobile, but like should you spend a ton of your training economy on it? And is that actually gonna get you better at throwing a 3-2 slider or like putting a guy away with a splitter? Probably not. But it's like another one of those things that you can just get sucked into and start to put all of your training economy in, like, oh, I just got to do more 90-90 hip switches, and I just got to do more back bridges and whatever the fancy mobility drill on TikTok is for that day. It's like, really, is that actually doing anything? Like,
yeah,
probably not. Like it might be a tool that you could use, right? Like you can use a lot of different things, but it's like, it's not the tool itself, it's how it's applied to your...
Sip your milk, man. Get comfy. All right. We had some technical difficulties. Whoa! Don't drink raw milk, kids.
All right, I think we're good.
So we went off script, so we're trying to figure out something else to talk about. What about like how to spot like bad coaching?
How to spot bad coaching is to be around good coaching.
Yeah, and then you notice it immediately when you aren't.
Yeah, that's the easiest way, I think.
Well, there's like two different like types of this question. Like it can be one, you're looking at private sector trainers, or you're looking at college baseball coaches. Both are going to be important in your career.
Yeah.
How to understand like what to look for in a program. I think like harsh reactions to like skepticism. That was always what I saw. Where it was
just like I think like if any coach is like super against like you having your own thoughts around anything you want to do, like that's kind of a red flag, like i.e. an outside program at a college, or like you bring something up to him and he's like no or whatever, right? Just like not having that open, I guess, growth mindset around other things, like my way or the highway. I think that's probably one of the biggest red flags. But like even if you're going through the recruiting process, dude, like reach out to players on the team. You know, I know you said you did that during your recruiting process. Like I never did that. I had a bunch of people in my corner be like, oh, you just need to go here because X, Y, and Z. And, you know, I ended up in a place that probably wasn't, you know, the best fit for me. Like, granted, I loved my time there, but like, you're probably going to love your time anywhere you go at college. You know what I mean? Like your freshman year. Like, but again, going back to like the people in your corner, how much influence they can have on your career. Like everybody was telling me like this and that. So I did that. I didn't know any better. You know what I mean? It's like the people you have in your corner that you look up to for this guidance through this journey. Like when you're on, you know, navigating this new front of getting to college, getting to the next level, right? Like you're going to need to rely on somebody. So like if they're telling you one thing, it's going to shape your actions.
What about like, what was the biggest surprise when you entered college? What was the biggest surprise when you entered pro ball?
Biggest surprise? Jeez. Honestly, dude, like just like the level of talent, honestly, like especially like coming from where I came from, like a smaller town, more rural area, like not a lot of competition, not a lot of talent, not a lot of guys going to D1s, you know, to play college baseball. So just like the playing field, right? I mean, I was fortunate enough to like play some high level baseball, high level travel baseball, and get into some big showcases. But like even when I was there, I still felt like I had like, I don't know, like a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like I felt like I was like, why am I here? Like, you know, so I think that's like another confidence thing. And tying back to, you know, earlier how we were talking about like the emotional side of things. Like I always felt small on the mound or on the field. I always felt like I was trying to keep everything in versus taking up space, letting it go, letting it be expressed. And that I think for me could have been a big game changer in my career, is just being able to take up space and have that, I guess, just have those layers of inhibition taken away. Like it's okay to express and be fiery and be emotional, right?
Yeah.
And then for pro ball, honestly, dude, the biggest thing for pro ball was the pitch clock. I felt so sped up with the pitch clock. Going from college baseball to 4.5 hour games to like pitch clock, like ball, like, dude, that really jacked with me my first year.
Yeah.
Really, really jacked with me my first year.
Did you ever try to put that into your training environment at all?
Nope.
No, yeah. Better.
Certified good idea though, right?
Could have spent it doing mobility.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I was too focused on like ripping back bridges and 100,000 joint moves. But let's not focus on maybe like getting used to the time constraint that we're gonna be in every day.
That was one thing I always took. I took that approach starting from actually Zach Bove, who I think is the White Sox.
Red Sox.
What, Red Sox now? Okay. I think he's the White Sox pitching coach now.
He was with the Red Sox, I think.
I'm pretty sure he's White Sox Bailey pitching coach. He was at College of Central Florida before both of us were. And after I committed to Oregon State and I was like leaving College of Central Florida, COVID, he did like a Zoom with us. And it was just a presentation. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he said was creating a chaotic training, like bullpen environment. And I guess at CF before, they would play like crying baby noises and like crazy stuff and make the backdrop weird. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you dealt with that, but when I was younger, like I remember pitching against like USC one time and the lines were like weird. And it like just like,
I remember another big struggle for me, I guess, in college was like going to fields that were like open and had space behind the catcher. And it was just, you going from like a little boxed in cage pitching, this cozy little like window to now a massive opening behind the umpire and people in the stands, like that almost like depth perception like would also really screw with me. I remember being again sped up like like University of Virginia, they had a pretty big open backstop. That's one that kind of jumps out to me.
During 2020, I was throwing bullpens with ridiculous jarring noises in my headphones actually, and then I made the background like distracting, like bright colors and just random stuff. So just like making the training environment as difficult so you're numb to it in the game. Dude, that kind of goes into like why I was bullish on the freestyle rapping stuff, because that builds your embarrassment muscle. Anything you can do to get yourself embarrassed, bro, it's literally just like a sales call or like talking to a girl. Like if you've like done it right before and failed, you just like you're like freed up versus like everything has to be so perfect, like, and then you go into the game and it's like, oh, it needs to be even more perfect. So designing it in a way where you can fail a lot and like make it's the reason why Traject is so popular now. You can crank the sliders up on any pitcher you're gonna face. Like no wonder big league hitting has somehow managed to like stay on pace with how ridiculous the pitching is, right? It's that same principle, and you can apply that to anything that you do. But that's an interesting one about the pitch clock, because I don't know if we had talked about that a ton, but
pitch clock really got me. Had me.
What else could we chop up?
Also just like I think being able to ignore like BS like from your coach or any peers,
simplify,
that can throw you off of like who cares what they think, being able to ignore the thoughts and feelings of others, because it goes back to being scared of being perceived, right? You're always gonna be perceived. Someone's always gonna have a thought about you. Somebody can always say something about you. Like you need to understand that. The sooner you can understand that and just like detach from that, because if you're scared of what they think or what they're thinking of you when you're doing something, like, dude, I remember when I was doing all my rehab, like I was terrified to do it,
which is crazy. That's like you're not owning yourself.
It was like I had to train on my own, like around nobody else, like because I was like, what are these people going to think of me when they see me ripping like impulses for 30 minutes? Or whatever.
And then it's like, how do you expect yourself to go out on the mound?
Exactly. It's like, then how do you...
Shameless, bro. So that's going to wrap it up for y'all. Make sure to subscribe. If you want to book a Magna Discovery call, that link will be in the description as well. We have a couple 30-day programs. Our Instagram and everything else that's relevant will be in there. Appreciate y'all watching.